we've talked about single trait crosses or one trait crosses. We've talked about two trait crosses now. But things aren't so cut and dried in biology. So in genetics, we have different patterns of inheritance that we're going to discuss right now. These are exceptions to Mendel's principles. In most organisms, genetics is more complicated because the majority of genes have more than two alleles. Also, many traits are controlled by more than one gene. We've been talking about eye color and how not all blue eyes are the same color. There are green eyes, there are hazel eyes, there are different shades of brown. These are from modifier genes that are in addition to controlling eye color, in addition to the straight brown-eyed, blue-eyed eye color gene. Mendel's principles alone can't predict traits that are controlled by multiple alleles or multiple genes. So, the first exception to Mendel's rules is called incomplete dominance. What you have is a blend. The heterozygote is a blend of two different phenotypes. So we have a red flowered gene, or a red flowered gene and a white flowered gene. And if you have those come together, the heterozygous condition is a blend. A pink flower is produced. So red flowers, white flowers, heterozygote is pink flowers. You can represent this in a couple different ways. In this example, we have two different letters next to one another that indicate that these are incompletely dominant instead of dominant and recessive. So you don't have a capital letter and a lowercase letter because that indicates dominant and recessive. The other thing you can use is a prime. So you could use R prime, little apostrophe. And so then your heterozygotes here would be R primed. You see that in some textbooks. This textbook has the R and the W to indicate incomplete dominance. Whatever one makes the most sense to you, I don't care. It's up to you what makes it easiest for you. So like I said, in this case, it's incomplete dominance. The heterozygote is somewhere in between the two homozygous phenotypes. So it's a blend. It's an in-between situation. Incomplete dominance in humans is hair texture. Curly hair is one situation. Straight hair is another situation. The heterozygotes have wavy hair. It's somewhere in between. Another exception is called codominance. If you look at the prefix co, that means together. So in this case, both alleles are clearly expressed. Classic example is chickens. Allele for black feathers is codominant with the allele for white chickens. Heterozygous chickens are called erminette, or speckled, or checkered chickens that have black feathers and white feathers next to one another. So you see both phenotypes that are expressed. Let me just go back to that. I thought there was an example. Here you can also use two different letters. B for black, W for white. Just make sure that you know what your situation is. If you're going to use the same notations for incomplete dominance and codominance, you know which condition you're working through because that's going to affect your answer. Multiple alleles is a situation like blood type in humans. in the case of human blood type, there are 3 different alleles. Instead of just 2, we have 3 different alleles. We have the A form of the allele, the B form of the allele, and the O form of the allele. So there are 3 alleles for blood type. You can see here that O is the most common blood type, O positive to be specific. A is the next most common, and then it goes down drastically after that in terms of the blood types. We'll talk about blood types a lot later on, starting with next chapter. Next up we have polygenic traits. Polygenic literally means many genes. You have 2 or more genes that are contributing to phenotype, like eye color is an example, just the modification of that. Variety of skin color in humans is because it's assumed, or it's estimated that more than 4 different genes probably control this trait. So what we end up seeing is a bell curve. Skin color, height are important polygenic traits. Those are the ones we commonly talk about. The environment can also play a part in how genes are expressed. Genes provide a plan for development, but that depends on the environment. So, genotype is inherited. As we discussed the other day, phenotype can be at times a combination of genes and the environment. Here's an example, the western white butterfly. The ones that hatch in the summer have different color patterns than those hatching in the spring. Butterflies hatching in the spring had greater levels of pigment in their wings. So that environment influences the expression of the genes for wing color. In order to fly, the body temperature of the butterfly has to be between 28 and 40 degrees Celsius. More pigmentation allows absorption of light energy, reaching warm body temperature faster. When it's hot, less pigmentation prevents the butterflies from overheating, from going outside of that temperature range on the upper end. So the different coloration determines or helps determine homeostasis, that stable internal body temperature necessary to fly.